Our event will begin in 5 minutes. Please have a seat. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Dr. Budi Astuti Ontario, as Deputy to Research and Innovation Policy, Bapak Indo Baskoro as Secretary to Research, Deputy to Research and Innovation Policy, Dr. Budi Hidayat as Director of Policy Formulation, Research and Innovation Policy, Dr. Rudi Iskandar, Director of Policy Evaluation to Research, Technology and Innovation, and also Bapak Haidar Rizal, PhD, Director to be Chairman Indicator to Research, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Cahyo Pranoto, on behalf of Director of Library Management, Research Facilities, Science and Technology Park. Welcome to the Dissemination Forum on Design and Implementation of Research and Development Support Policy for Improvement of Science, Technology, and Innovation System in Indonesia. Also, we are welcome to Dr. Andrew Kim, Dr. Yong Ju, Dr. Sang Il Park, Dr. Dong Sung Im, Miss Jolie, and Miss Mai Dolandosel. Before we begin, please allow me to briefly explain the agenda. In the beginning of this event, we will watch a short video about study profile, and then we will hear opening remark from Dr. Bibi Hidayat and Dr. M. Kim. Also today, we have 4 distinguished speakers to convey 4 interesting topic, and then we have a Q&A session and photo session in the last event. Without any further ado, please enjoy the video. Ladies and gentlemen, before we come to opening session, on behalf of Deputy to Research and Innovation Policy, please accept the gift as a token of our appreciation. I will invite Dr. Dong Im and Dr. Bibi Hidayat. Please come to the discussion. Okay, Badan, I think we have to make an opening remark first. Now I will welcome Dr. Dudi Hidayah, Assistant Director to Policy Formulation, to Research and Innovation Policy, to give the opening remark.
Thank you so much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. The Honorable, my Korean colleague, Dr. Iptekin, Principal Researchers, Division of Global Innovation Strategy Research, STEPI, Saat, Teknologi and Policy Institute. Dr. Deon Sogi, Senior Research Fellow, Office of Sustainable Innovation and Policy Research, Division of Global Innovation Strategy Research from STEPI. And then Dr. Iptekin, Lead Manager Research Infrastructure Policy Team, National Research Facilities and Equipment Center, Korea Basic Science Institute, KBSI. And then Dr. Shin Park, Department of Nuclear Policy and Strategy from KRI, Korean Atomic Energy Research Institute. Ms. Sinai Khan, researcher at SDI Policy. She's the one who is responsible for all of these things, so we should thank her for this. And then Ms. Jeong Seo, National Research Facilities and Equipment Center of KBSI. And Ms. Judy, researchers at the National Research Facilities and Equipment Center, Korea Basic Science Institute. And then, of course, to Dr. Budia Studio, my Deputy Chairman for Research and Innovation Policy BRIN, my colleague, Mr. Yudo Baskoro, Deputy Secretary for Research and Innovation Policy BRIN, Dr. Budi Sandar, Director for Policy Evaluation of Research, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Khairul Izal, Director for Indicator Measurement of Research, Technology and Innovation, and of course Dr. Chahmet Paloto on behalf of the Director of Directorate Development Management, Business Facilities and Smart Technology Park, Deputy for Research and Innovation, and of course distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, who I think all of us have the same concern for science and technology development in Indonesia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. First of all, it gives me a great pleasure to address all of you a very warm welcome on behalf of the National Research and Innovation Agency. Especially, I'm delighted that I could welcome our fellow colleagues from the Republic of Korea in person here in Cibinong, Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2023 K Innovation Partnership Program is a joint collaboration program between STEPI and BRIN and LIPI that you speak with regard to the policy consultation on design and implementation of BRIN research infrastructure and funding policies to strengthening innovation in the business system. And today, this afternoon, we are attending the dissemination forum of the current status and challenges in research and innovation infrastructure policies in Indonesia, and we shall try to draw lessons from the Republic of Korea. This dissemination is aimed to deliver our research results to the Indonesian science, technology, and innovation policymakers, especially to deal with research and innovation infrastructure policies in Indonesia. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am very delighted to have the prolonged STI policy project partnership between Indonesia and the Republic of Korea over 8 years since 2014, LIPI and STEPI, and then since 2021 between BRIN and STEPI. We commit to maintain this good relationship of the K Innovation Partnership, particularly during the new STI governance of Indonesia through the establishment of the National Research and Innovation Agency. The Key Innovation Policy Program has successfully delivered actionable policy recommendations to the government of Indonesia so far in dealing with issues of building a think tank, designing a new evaluation mechanism, and restructuring regulation on STI. So the government of Indonesia really needs to reinforce national innovation system and governance to reinforce the national economic competitiveness. One of the main issues is how to manage national research and innovation infrastructures and how to lead research results contributing to the economic impact. At the global level, research and innovation infrastructure has been widely used to leverage economic activities. Now, the issue of management of research and innovation infrastructure is quite complicated for BRIN at the moment, particularly in the SDI information era. Hence, we acknowledge that the fruitful inputs from STEPI and other Korean institutes are important to support the new SDI governance of Indonesia. Furthermore, our collaboration can be improved through other programs like master and doctoral degree, scholarship, postdoc scholarship, internship, and co-publication between BRIN, STEPI, KBSI, and also KRI and other institutions in Korea. All of them are key part to reinforce and to sustain our collaboration for the next years to come. To sum up, we are keen to enter into various projects with Korea, not limited to research and innovation infrastructure, but also on more key consultancy projects that will contribute to achieve national goals for Indonesia. We trust that our next collaboration will be deeply worthwhile to the development of both countries. At the end, I say a lot of thanks to you all from Korean colleagues that have attended to this dissemination forum and all the colleagues that attended this meeting, and please enjoy the discussion. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
For such opening remarks. Next, we will hear from Dr. Andrew Kim to give an opening remark to Dr. Andrew Kim, the stage yours.
Okay, Deputy Chairman Dr. Bodias Putri, Dr. Dudi Hidayat, and BRIN directors, researchers, and colleagues and friends. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Korean delegation, I would like to express Can I continue? Okay, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to BRIN to invite us to the Indonesian Research and Innovation Expo. We could see how much Indonesian people are interested about research and innovation. And it is very meaningful to us that we organize this forum in partnership with the BRIN as a special session of the Inaugural Expo. This year, we started STEPI's partnership program with the BRIN, which is policy consultation on design and implementation of BRIN's research infrastructure and funding policies in strengthening Indonesian innovation system. Recognizing the importance of science and technology in national economic development, the Korean government has dramatically increased R&D investment by establishing the national R&D programs in the 1980s. Since then, we have witnessed an extraordinary achievements made through R&D investment in Korea. So these days, many developing countries also recognize the importance of SDI for the national development and intended to strengthen SDI capacity through international cooperation. So it is very desirable that the Korean government has increased support for these partnership programs to share Korea's development experiences with our partner countries. In this sense, STEPI's partnership program with BRIN takes a great significance in the BRIN's mission to develop SDI policy and strategies as a supporter and the facilitator of R&D investment at the national level of Indonesia. In particular, this year, we are very lucky to have experts of Korea's major R&D institutions, such as Iptekin, National Research Facilities and Equipment Center of Korea Basic Science Institute, and Korea Institute of Science Technology Evaluation and Training, KISTEP we call it, and also Korea Atomic Energy Research Institute as consultants. I'm very much certain that this cooperation will bring about very good outcome in the near future and further strengthen our partnership between Korea and Indonesia in the field of science technology policy. And this year, we already carried out joint research and organized many workshops and training for capacity building of BRIN policymakers and researchers. With the research and survey results on R&D infrastructure and survey management, the BRIN research team came to identify real problems and issues in this matter. It is my sincere hope that this program will lay a solid foundation for substantial collaboration of both countries as their players in the public and private sectors in the coming years. So allow me to conclude by just extending my deepest thanks to Deputy Chairman and our BRIN colleagues and friends. Today we really had a good time in the morning and afternoon, and really just thank you for inviting us to the botanical garden. So now we have an unforgettable memory, and we tasted wonderful food, rendang and very just delicious food. So thank you so much for your kind hospitality. Okay, thank you. Terima kasih.
I will recall on behalf of Deputy to Research and Innovation Policy, please accept and give as a token of our appreciation. I will invite Dr. De Son In and Dr. Budi Hidayat. Please come.
So Dr. Yi is a long-standing established researcher who has observed about Indonesian science technology development. So I understand, I think you were here in this in 1993, this Saat project, and since then, so the 1992 Saat project at that time. So it's been quite long time trying to understand science technology in Indonesia and then do some research and provide advice to us. So on behalf of BRIN, I understand you may enter your retirement and this year. It's a pity, actually, you still can work then, not tired. But yeah, as part of the cycle of our lives, so retirement is part of the process. I would like to convey to you our appreciations. I hope you don't forget us and still come to Indonesia.
Please stay there because we are going to capture our moment to photo session. First, First photo session, I will invite Dr. Rudia Studimanto, Bapak Yudo Baskoro, Dr. Didi Iskandar, Bapak Hayu Rizal, Bapak Muhammad Sugeng, Dr. Cahyo Pranoto, and from Korea, Dr. Lim Joo Kim, Dr. Sang Il Park, Dr. Yong Joo Kim, Ms. Jung Seo, and Dr. Dok Soo Kim. We also invite all of head of research center to join. Head of research center. Now we come to the main agenda. It's the first session. I will invite all of the speakers to fill the front chair. Dr. Sang Il Park, Dr. Yong Joo Kim, Ms. Jung Seo, Dr. Cahyo Pranoto, and Dr. Dok Soo Kim. Please fill the front chair. I will briefly explain the short profile of the speakers. Dr. Sang Il Park, as a principal researcher of the Department of Nuclear Policy and Strategy, Korean Atomic Energy Research Institute, and Dr. Yong Joo Kim, senior researcher, National Research Facility and Equipment Center. Also, we have Ms. Jung Seo, researchers, National Research Facility and Equipment Center. Dr. Cahyo Pranoto, coordinator from Directorate of Laboratory Management Research Facility and Science Technology. And also Dr. Dok Soo Kim as a senior research fellow, Division of Global Innovation Strategy Research, Science and Technology Policy Institute.
I guess I can start. Okay, selamat siang. Good afternoon. It's so nice to be here. I thank all the organizers for inviting me over to Indonesia to give this talk. So I prepared this talk for 30 minutes, etc. And I'll try to keep it short to make sure I finish in time. So today's topic is about large-scale research facilities, and I'll tell you briefly about how to make sure they operate effectively. And again, once again, I'm the single part of the Korea Atomic Energy Research Institute, and probably some of you may have heard about this. Goldman Sachs is one of the big banks in the United States. They predicts Indonesia will become the world's fourth largest economy by 2050. Oops. The question is how to get there, right? So you cannot just achieve the goal by doing nothing, but you have to do something, especially science and technology and innovation that should be an integral part of it. And here, throughout my life, since I began my career at school at MIT, I used a lot of different large scale facilities, starting with the National Center of ISOs in the National Laboratory. I moved on to use the research reactor in their files. And then when I came back to Korea, I worked at the Hanwha Research Reactor and for a few years, and then also the Korea Multi-Purpose Conference. Through the experience, I learned the following things. And this is my take-home message. Okay. So this is the take-home message. So all the countries are in a different situation. This is my recommendation to developing countries. Applications. Okay, next page. Not very responsive. Oh, okay, so these are the facilities that you come to think of when you speak about large-scale research facilities, particle accelerators, huge one like Large Hadron Collider, and so on, or astronomical observatories like the Hubble Space Telescope. But these are not all. Let's go to the next page. There are some user facilities such as synchrotron light sources, neutron standards, and advanced microgrid standards. So these are the facilities where a lot of users come in to perform their experiments. And to the next page. Next page. Okay, but okay. So, for example, high performance computing centers, several computers for this also large scale facilities. And then in this case, a lot of people just use computer resource remotely, right? Accessing this resource. Nearly several thousands of people can use this together. There are other types of large scale research facilities, research platforms, mobile stations, and even launch pads are considered large-scale research facility. Now the question is, what is large-scale research facility? So there is no dictionary definition, and I asked artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, what the large-scale research facility is. It answered with several key characteristics. Usually, we tend to associate significant infrastructure and advanced equipment with large-scale research facilities, but there are other aspects too, especially it's interdisciplinary and it grants access to external researchers. It's not just for just a few scientists who use the facility. So my conclusion is that I learned that it depends on what you want to achieve from the policies for large-scale research facilities. There's no real definition. It's about what you want from them. So in Korea, because of the budgetary concern, we classify several large-scale research facilities as those that cost more than $4 million US. And some of them are called super large or very large research infrastructure, when it is more than $40 million US. So it's completely budgetary concern, and the government will not sharing these facilities with outside users, because there's the expensive investment. You want to make sure that they're utilized fully. But in the United States, for example, National Science Foundation is a different definition for the facility. So they call major multi-user research facility. So already the name there is different meaning than just a large regulatory concern. Of course, they use one criteria, $100 million as the kind of line for becoming a large-scale research facility. Still, the name bears some other meaning. That's what I'm going to focus on today. So, why did we build large-scale research facilities? And before World War II, the government didn't really spend a lot of money on research and development. It was up to private institutions and universities to fund themselves. But we have observed that these big sciences, like building a nuclear bomb or atomic energy, can bring a lot of destruction, also a lot of progress. Right? So ever since the governments put a lot of money in these big projects, which are called big science. And as part of the big science, they built a lot of big research reactors and accelerators too. Other than the big science, these large-scale research facilities, they are the big tools for research and education and training. So to compete in the frontiers of science and technology usually requires the best of the tools available to you, and they often come in the form of the large-scale research facilities. That's why they built them. But some of the facilities, they don't need to be the best in the world. Even though some small facilities, which still cost a lot of money for developing economies, can be very beneficial. One of the examples was that in South Korea, they built the first research reactor in 1959. Then President Lee was more than 80 years old, and he did not think he would see the end of it, but started the project anyway when Korea was a very poor country. And they built this small research reactor, Chicago-2, and through using this reactor, they trained a lot of engineers who later on went to the United States to learn how to design a power plant. And these are the people who crossed the Pacific to go to the United States. And one of them, in fact, this guy standing here is the president of Korea University student at the moment. Korea was able to construct and operate its first homegrown power plant since 2005. So look at the timeline. It took about half a century before the investment became fruitful. Right? So it's a long-term project, I would say. Next page. It'll be ideal if we have infinite amount of money and build all the facilities. But unfortunately, the reality is that even the United States, which spends more money on research and development, is incapable of supporting all the facilities. This is a famous Arecibo observatory in Puerto Rico. So they shot one of the 007 movies there. Some of you may have seen it. But it broke down in 2020, and ever since the National Science Foundation did not have enough funds to fix or replace the observatory, right? So we have to be very wise in investing in what kind of facilities that we want to build. But for some rich country like China, the money is not an issue. They build a 500-meter aperture spherical radio telescope called FAST, which is even larger than the American Arecibo, a lot larger, right? So it took them about 2 decades, and now it attracts scientists from all around the world. It's the world's best radio telescope available. Not only that, the Chinese are building so many different super facilities, very expensive facilities that outperform European and American facilities so that they can dominate in science and technology in the future. Right. But of course, not everyone can just copy the Chinese effort. So we have to think why we are doing science and technology. Usually, this is what whenever Bush envisioned when he thought about investing in science. Investment would lead to discovery and innovation that will eventually lead to economic prosperity and strong national security, good public health, and so on. Right? So there's one such example recently. So we had a terrible COVID-19 pandemic in the world, but somehow we got the vaccine pretty soon after. The mRNA vaccine, which was invented just a month after the pandemic. Right? That was surprising, but it's not surprising to scientific circles because we knew that this small company, BioNTech, based in Germany, they've been studying with the basic science, mRNAs, as well as they were working with lipid nanoparticles using one of their research reactors. So we knew that they were ready, and soon we saw that they were the first one who invented these mRNA vaccines for the humanity. So that's a kind of classic example of what we have, what kind of unexpected outcome we would have if we invest in science and technology. But we should not also forget that investing in science and technology, it involves the human aspect too. You train experts in science engineering who would change the planet, basically. For example, this guy, Elon Musk, he majored in physics and economics at the University of Pennsylvania, dropped out from Stanford University just a couple of days to pursue his career in business. But he knew quite well about material science and knew that the battery is right for electric cars. So he contacted the Canadian scientist, Jeff Dunn, who is one of the foremost scientists in battery materials. And Jeff Dunn, since Canada doesn't have a research reactor, he traveled all the way to Australia to use the reactor there and perfected the battery materials, and the rest is history. You all know what happened. So there's another unexpected outcome from this effort. So if you think about the role of the public sector in science and technology, you have to do a lot of different things, from education to basic science and technology for public use, such as health and medical science. And also, there are some big sciences only a few countries can enjoy, like the space program, etc. For a long time, large-scale research facilities are associated with this big science. That's what I've been telling you, but there are some other aspects too. Research infrastructure. That's the only thing the national government can try to do. Private institutions are not really interested in this research infrastructure, especially multi-user large-scale research facilities are crucial in developing your science and technology. So the science and technology scene, in my point of view, looks like this. We have a lot of big sciences which require large research facilities. Also, there are small sciences, such as material science. As I mentioned, for example, battery materials, that's an important part too, right? And also the industrial research and development is being done on cars, pharmaceuticals, etc. It's multi-user facilities link all of these big science and small sciences, and they can be very useful in developing your own science. But here are some more lessons. Large-scale research facilities, they can fail, in fact. So this is a famous example of a superconducting super collider that was being built in the United States. And initially it was subject to cost like $4.4 billion, but later on it turned out that it would cost more than $11 billion because they had to redesign almost 10,000 magnets. Right? There were other problems too, but the US Congress eventually decided to just shut down the project. So unfortunately, we do not learn from the history. South Korea is just following a similar path. For example, we have recently constructing the rare accelerator complex for online experiments, which is called BRIN. So one of the large accelerators. It has similar problems, just like the superconducting super collider, right? So we learned that large-scale research facilities, they require long-term commitments in several stages. Unfortunately, these are the things that only those countries who have failed previously learn. I hope that Indonesia will never get this kind of failures. There are other problems when the politics win over science. For example, the proton accelerator that I mentioned, which I made for a while. The government decided to construct the accelerator on the site where they host the National Nuclear Waste Repository, and they just trim down the specification of the accelerator so that they can be built quickly. But unfortunately, if the spec is compromised, you will see that the user will say, not so much can do with that specification, so waste of money. But these are the things that you want to avoid. So of course, there are some good aspects too, but the electronic companies proliferate in South Korea because they can use these facilities. There's another example of the government oversight, which leads to more dysfunctional facilities. For example, many of you have visited Hanado, the research reactor, which has been serving our electronics and automotive industry very well, but it still has its own problems because there is little government oversight. It operates with only like half to quarter of the average budget of other similar size research reactors. Right, so that leads to not so used facility. Right, that's another problem. The most commendable case in South Korean experience is that we have a synchrotron radiation facility in Wuhan, which has been operating successfully since 1995. It generates about 500 publications with impact factor more than 12.4, which is really amazing for a facility with this size. So they call it the most successful large-scale research facility in Korea. But because of the budgetary issues, eventually it had to be turned over to the government. Right? It used to be operated by the university, but the university could not maintain the facility at all. So I would say scientific user facility model works, right? With a lot of users, you can produce a lot of science, but the government oversight is eventually required. You put any of government money toward the facility. So I have a list of recommendations. Since my time is over, I'm going to just go on quickly. The first thing is invest in people. That's one of the most important things that you have to do. And the second thing is you have to fine-tune your policies so that it matches the characteristics of large-scale research facilities. Thirdly, to maximize effectiveness, there are a lot of different strategies we have to find and make sure that the things work with maximum utilization of such facilities, because they were built with enormous budget. You want to make sure they are really utilized well. So I'm concluding the talk with my recommendations. And once again, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. And I'll be really eager to hear from you after the discussions. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm great to be here today to talk about the research infrastructure policy. Why we need the research infrastructure policy? My name is Kim, and I have been a consultant for the past 6 months on the current state of research infrastructure and policy at Indonesia. I'm in charge of the research infrastructure policy in Korea and Iptekin. Iptekin is the Korea agency, national agency for the science and technology research infrastructure. I hope my experience to be great to help to you to Indonesia. Why do many nations need the science technology research activities? National competitiveness came from the science technology competitiveness, and the science and technology competitiveness came from the S&T superstructure and the S&T infrastructure. What is the reason science and technology infrastructure? In particular, science and technology superstructure supported by the science technology infrastructure. The S&T infrastructure consists of the research infrastructure. As you know, research infrastructure is the facility and implemented, and research resources. As you know, space and material, and research information and research data, science and S&T infrastructure and the resource and the information are developed from the infrastructure. The resource of the information are resource and information are into the patent and the standard and other connected to the output of the research activities. In other words, the fate of the S&T infrastructure depends on the science and technology infrastructure. Why does the research infrastructure matter? As mentioned earlier, the elements of the weight of the science technology infrastructure are directly related to research infrastructure. In other words, among the components of the science technology infrastructure, research infrastructure are most important ends of the science and technology competitiveness and by the extension and additional competitiveness. In particular, current science and technology research methods are changing rapidly. Over the past few thousand years, too many researchers obtain observation or explain the national phenomena. Over the past few hundred years, too many researchers explain the natural phenomenon by the theory. Over the past few decades, researchers simulate complex phenomena on the computer. Nowadays, researchers conduct research that integrate theory and experimentation and the simulation using data. Data is generated so the advanced research infrastructure. So research infrastructure very important. For example, LIPI is discovered the gravitational wave with the research and computing infrastructures across the global. Which cost of the $300 million involves thousands of scientists from around the world to generate the data. In addition, it's not just a single facility, but connected to validate the research infrastructure at Hanford and Livingston in US and Italy and Germany. And utilize computer research around the world to analyzing data. So research infrastructure is the most important factor in the development of modern science and technology. When I started 30 years ago, in Korean case, 30 years ago, researchers were always saying that they are lack of infrastructure. Despite the fact in Korea invest a lot of money in infrastructure every year, despite increased research investment every year, but problems did not go away. So we analyzed the underlying program on the developing program. The conclusion obtained by identifying various phenomena and growing up together, we are concluded research infrastructure not well utilization. So we obtained the identified various phenomena and we conducted the model with the waste. Research effectiveness is low and the collaboration is poor. We are finding the result. So how does we find the solution? So we created MPEG in 2009. MPEG is established for the efficient measurement of the research infrastructure in Korea. MPEG logo is like iceberg. That means the visible investment in the research infrastructure is only part of the game, and it is necessary to pay attention to the sea become a required continuous investment for the large amount of cost. After analyzing program, we devised and implementation various solutions. So our investment very largely in research facilities increased by 752%. Joint utilization rate increased by 125%. The ratio of the research equipment, the construction of the total research expenses has been reduced by 37%, 37%. How we do is we set up the policy objective and the strategic goal, and we make the objective is research infrastructure are well utilized, and we have made the strategic goal. Strategic first is strategic investment. The second is promoting and joint use and nature and managing operation. We have made the strategic goal. As you know, there are many different policies in science and technology. For example, we are grouping the governance and financial support and the regulation and guideline. Governance consists of the basic strategy agenda and construction. Creation and reform the governance structure, policy intelligence, too many governance tools, and the policy support consists of institutional funding and policy research and project grant for the public research and business R&D and innovation, and too many for the financial support tool, and regulation and guideline. Technology expression and business advice service, science and technology regulation and urban mobility regulation, and too many research science and technology policy. In Korea, take a policy tool, via governance is collect data, analysis, make a plan, implementation policy, and experimentation organization, our organization. The second financial tool is the establishment of the soft project. Project is the make too many facility and operating cost, support joint utilization facilities, and the support for the excellent facilities, human resource training, and regulation and guideline, logistics station, and we make the standard manual and manual presentation and research and analyze the order for operation. For example, it is that each of the very large research infrastructure, we have establishment goal and legal support measure, financial support measure, and governance measure. and the create the detailed and for the reach of that. We make the decision and very large research infrastructure life cycle, eventual identification and planning, investment dedication, decision and post-construction management and operation, investment. It is the very large research infrastructure life cycle. We are each stage, we are making the major aim and the legal standard dimension and the support policy project. We are making each categories and what is the mission of the campaign? We are decision of our missions. So make the mission, this mission and the contents are reflected in the South Korea Basic Act for Science and Technology. MPAC was established under the Korea Government Basic Act of Science and Technology. The main mission of the MPAC is to assist the Ministry of Strategy and Finance and the Ministry of Science and ICT in developing policies and the plan for the national research infrastructure and to allocate the related budget. We also promote the utilization of the research infrastructure by researcher, operating educated relevant professor, and the technology person, and the product the underwriting strategical indicator on the research infrastructure funded by the government asset project. And then I explain the Korean research infrastructure investment system. The funding stage is divided into the planning, construction, decision, budget allocating, and the advanced stage. Almost all research infrastructure goes to this stage. The target of each stage is different depending on the cost amount. The cost amount can be divided into the 1 billion won and the 100 billion won when covered by $71,000 and $77 million in Korean won. In Korea, very large research infrastructure related to the infrastructure that costs 100 billion won and goes to sort the stage of planning, construction, linear budget allocated, and the total project cost was this amount. Therefore, in order to manage efficient research infrastructure, have established a management system with the recognized of the Ministry of the Research and Development Organization. The GEO system is operated by MPAC, which is the authorization by the MSIT to operate the system. The collected research infrastructure data information is linked to the utilization system of other ministries. We provide the reservation and the utilization service for researcher, joint use, so the GEO system. GEO system information is equipment registration system. If you conduct the R&D project in Korea, you are required to register, and we check the integrity of the information sold to screening. In particular, management card with the QR code and efficiency notation attached to each piece of the equipment, and the logbook displayed the GEO's mobile app. This allows us to monitor utilization status. And conduct separate survey annually for research infrastructure to support research via surveying and the survey data and analyzing and provide annually. And we collect the data. This information is used in many parts. Information building infrastructure is used for the data mining of the approaches of the other infrastructure and the building them. And to make part of using our data, we are providing So research infrastructure is being promoted right in a cycle level. One of the research infrastructure is built and the rest of we monitor the utilization status and investigate its performance every year. After analyzing the performance, we use for evaluation again. So this we build a system to ensure that the research infrastructure is used well. Our monitoring system, to someone we should visit our center and show our system. It's Redman is me. So we are monitoring system is 8 is of the monitor and our first screen and second screen. Each screen is monitoring our stage here. And then we are sort of the right cycle label to system and label to all research infrastructure system as budget right system, education system, the world of large system, and AI. We are analyzing data and make knowledge and so provide research to researchers brain system. And it's across developmental integration operation model. This national research facility implement established world leading national advanced system we call the NAS, including strategic investment in research infrastructure and the promotion of joint utilization of research infrastructure and the training of specialized technician. It is only independent monetary organization that gave its purpose. So our story can be made a difference in Indonesia. SN infrastructure leadership for the governmental policy and the decision maker. And science technology infrastructure operation and the management system for R&D funding agencies, SNT institution and the university. R&D maintenance repair and research infrastructure maintenance repair and operation, we call the MRO, for the operator, technician, and the researchers. We and AMPEC can be helped to create this in Indonesia. Thank you for my presentation. Terima kasih.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sejang and it is an honor to give a presentation on behalf of my team and my boss. I'm a member of equipment utilization team in National Research Facilities and Equipment Center. Today, I'm going to talk about policy status for managing and utilizing research infrastructure in South Korea. This is the contents of my today's presentation. First of all, I'm going to show you a diagram to help you understand the whole structure of management and realization and the policies in each phase. Lastly, I will briefly introduce you a system called series. Although
hard work we've been made is to improve research productivity. And for this goal, management should be efficient and research infrastructure should be jointly used more. This is very simple logic. And in the perspective of full cycle of research infrastructure, there are key policies for each phase to realize the goal. For the better management, our center and conduct education, public relations. Is it okay? Sorry for that. For the better management, our center conducts education, public relations, and survey for fact finding. And in the perspective of utilization, we promoted networking in our area and showed forums for knowledge sharing. And this work is new. We are making progress for retraining experts. And there are two interesting systems in terms of financial management and funding. And the last phase is the proposal. National RI cannot just simply be disused. When you have idle national research infrastructure, you should let other people know that you want to transfer it. And that has a platform for this new system. Lastly, these policies are based on data and system. In fact, there is a comprehensive online platform called Saat. Saat deals with all data of RI in terms of full cycle of management. So with the designing of this whole structure, I will introduce these policies. All the policies that I'm talking today are based on the law. So the organizations and researchers who use national RI should follow the guidelines. To promote the guidelines and policies, we offer on and offline education, and we hold policy briefing sessions regularly. Actually, this is my work that I'm in charge of. To understand the level of management system and utilization of RI by each institution, we've been conducting lecture survey annually for 13 years. It's quite long. The survey consists of online survey and on-site check. I don't want to use the word investigation because the whole process is implemented with cooperative and very understanding manner. As you can see on the picture on the right side, we have an online survey system. So every targeting organizations have to count the system and submit their own responses. And I collect responses, whether they follow the guidelines and how many hours they utilize the national increments. In this year, approximately 470 organizations were the target. And with the collected responses, we choose some organizations to visit based on analyzed data. Then a task force team will visit the organizations and we inspect the actual situation and interview the agency officials and operators. After the whole project, I make a report and deploy to the related organizations and ministries, and we use the report for institutional improvements. As you can check the graph on the left side, as time goes by, the targeted organizations has been increased. Many organizations are in our span of management, and I found that more organizations are getting compliant with the management guidelines. This is the actual screen capture of the one system I'm operating. Firstly, you have to answer whether your organization has proper management system and complies with the guidelines. This is the simple part. But after that, you have to fill in the total utilization hours by joint use equipment. So this is the third part. So with this data, you can be evaluated because there are two indicators, performance indicators based on the law. The first one is utilization rate. So you submit your operation hours, so we can calculate the utilization rate. And we also investigate the situation of manpower. So these tools are commonly used as an evaluation method for utilization of research equipment and management level. And next part is utilization. I just passed this slide on this. As I mentioned from the beginning, we've been supporting communities in the RI area to enhance the professionalism of the experts through communication. Also, we've been held a forum called Case Free annually to provide the platform RI professionals to share knowledge. And in planning task for this year, we are developing programs for high level experts. And this is kind of interesting system. The biggest difficulty in using research infrastructure is to prepare an operation and maintenance budget, because in Korea, cost could only be used during the R&D project. So to solve this problem, we made this system called integrated pooling system for cost of R&D. This system has legislated in 2019, and for now, 21 designated organizations are using this system. For status, for now, the accumulated amount is $30 million. I just transfer the currency to understand the actual size. And for now, $2.8 million are spent. This is relatively new system, so I expect that in 5 or 10 years, many organizations will be benefited by this system. And when a research institute collects underutilized RI within their institution and builds an integrated center for joint use, we support the budget. We support for creating and activating joint utilization centers. We call these centers core facility in public research institutions and universities. It is kind of budget support such as relocation costs for infrastructure integration and maintenance and performance improvement costs and personal expenses, etc. And the last part is disposal. It is very important to transfer the underutilized equipment to other demanding institutions as soon as possible to increase their utilization. Therefore, we are supporting all expenses incurred during the relocations. And for that, more than 400 equipments were relocated. And after the relocations, we check the performance of the utilization. And there is a mileage system to provide mileage to researchers and institutions who actively register idle equipment in those use. And accumulating, we supported more than $530,000 US. And the last part is about Zeus. I think some of you already heard about Zeus. All the policies are based on data and the system called Zeus. I can't imagine to implement this kind of policies without that. Zeus is a software equipment and utilized service. It is a comprehensive online service for entire cycle of RI management. So this system includes deliberation, registration, and reservation, etc. And if you when you try to establish a system, I think you should think about the depth and which data you should collect. And this collects data on acquisition agency, price, location, model, or scope of use, project name, etc. So for now, the total number of equipment reservation is more than 70,000 pieces of equipment. It's quite a lot. So I think there are many possibilities to benchmark for your own system. So this is the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions of utilization or future study, feel free to send an email to me. Thank you for listening.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, sejahtera untuk semua. Annyeonghaseyo, Korean team. Thank you very much for visiting us for 4 days. In this session, please allow me to represent our deputy, Dr. Yantrianto. He has hosted you in the botanical garden this afternoon. So the presentation is about the issues and challenges of research and development of infrastructure, support policy and management in Indonesia. Next. Okay. Actually, our story started at this point when all research institutions in Indonesia have been integrated in one research institutions. It is BRIN. So BRIN is one and the only one research institution in Indonesia, a government research institution in Indonesia. So it's as we know, we have integrated 4 ministry and around 44 research ministerial institutions. Then next. Now, BRIN has defined its 3 targets, 3 directions and 7 targets, and as its direction to its mission. And our deputy for research, infrastructure and innovations was focused in the first directions. It is the integrating of research and innovations, including human infrastructures and budget resources. So it is the main theme of us since yesterday, that we centralize the infrastructures, the budget, and also the human resources. And regarding this targets of our deputy, we have to realize that we cannot complete our job, our task by ourselves. So you have to collaborate with other deputy, with other units, internal BRIN, to realize the target. And this is the most important target, that is an improving research and innovation ecosystem. It was stated there that BRIN is the ultimate solution for low critical mass at the moment in Indonesia, creating the collaboration hub and enabler for multi-local and global stakeholders. So I underline the multi-local and global stakeholders. That's why in the long term, our target is to collaborate with regional laboratory network and even global international laboratory network. And to reach this target, the most important policy from our chairman, that we take an open platform system. It means that our human resource, infrastructure, network should be open to the external BRIN, national, and even regional or global. Next slide. And regarding this target, we are dealing with three main challenges. It is the policy issues, support issues, and management issues. So these issues belum dipindah dulu. These issues, if you talk about policy issues, if it has been regulated, does the concern significantly abstract the overall business process? This policy doesn't need. So the policy, it means a dynamic. So you have to interpolate when you doing your business, when you are conducting the business process, which policy should be refreshed, should be renewed, should be revised, and so on. And for support, the main question is: has there been policy that a solution? Has there been a policy that is a solution with obstacle, with support that is needed? So every policy we have to think, we have to look for support, its support. And the last, and it is very related to our deputy, regarding the management. Did the obstacle arise because the business process was not implemented properly, or it is not regulated in the business process? Such a question should be discussed, should be work out together. Almost our discussion in our deputy around these three main issues. And why we came to this conclusion that this is three main issues. In the beginning, in the beginning, we are trying when in the first year of integration of BRIN, we are trying to transform the old system to a new system of integrated BRIN. It is include how to establishing a new system for research and development infrastructure. And we came to know that there are a lot of problems before when we integrated the research institutions, we came to know that there are lots of duplications of procurement. And also we found that the facility damage is inefficiently maintained. And the assets limitations for the researchers to the facility, and a lot of problems, the low usage of facilities. And this a lot of problem of the old system we found. We try to transform to a better system. Next, we were trying to transform the old management system from old system to the new system, and but we realized that it is not that easy. Okay. Next. During the transformation in the first year, we have made a roadmap from how to transform from the old system to the new BRIN system. And most of our policy, most of our planning were failed or not executed properly. So next, then we realized more that the transformation was not only our duty, not only the responsibility of our deputy. It should be collaborative with another units in BRIN. And I think this is a common sense. When you have an organizations, then the design of organizations will include of several units, and each unit has its own function. Then there should be collaboration between them. And our collaboration next, I think the most intense collaborations when we face our problem regarding the management of infrastructure with the Directorate of Evaluation for Policy, Research and Technology. the Dr. Dudi Iskandar Directorate. Yes, and we are really thanks for a lot of help from your directorate, Dr. Dudi. Last time you have you have conducted a survey to the researchers about our services, our management for the infrastructure services to the researchers. Next one, and also we realize more and we understand more after we have a collaboration with Korea Selatan. Thank you very much. Korea Selatan has assisted us a lot how to manage the research infrastructure. As Dr. Kim has synthesized that the monitoring board in NFPC. We have visited NFPC last May, and a lot of discussion there. And well, this it's very impressed us. It is actually what we need, such a solution, such a system, how to manage it. And also when we visited Korea for a 1 week workshop there, we have discussed method how to find a solution for infrastructure management problem, and it is called MISI. MISI, it is a method how the problem is defined, what is the phenomenon, what is the reason, until what any kind of the solution options with stakeholders you have to collaborate, how much and how long the budget, how much the budget and how long you need, and so on. Actually, by this MISI method, in the end, you will get or you will make an action plan for the solutions. Next. Well, regarding the policy of our deputy, about the 3 issues: policy, support, and management. This is what we have from our deputy. That for the subject infrastructure management, then we have to collaborate with Deputy of Research and Innovation Policy. This is from Ms. Budi Asti, yeah. And for human research development, we have to collaborate with Science and Technology Human Resources and also with research organization, for example. And for the long-term planning on the need of research facilities, we have to collaborate with development policy deputy and also with research organizations. So we have a matrix for what kind of policy and with who we have to collaborate. Next. And this is the roadmap of our deputy regarding the infrastructure policies. No, actually, honestly, we have to shift 3 years. We have to shift 3 years to the right side, because a lot of our program in this roadmap still have to be completed. Anyway, the policies here, that in the first year we have to make a lot of policy about integrations. So integration of the infrastructure, research infrastructures, and planning for new facilities establishment. Yeah, because in the first year we did not have any budget for procurement. So the facility establishments we can execute it just in the next year, in the 2022. And for infrastructure policies, the budget mostly this is for life science facilities, research for life science facilities in this area. We focused in the year 2022, and 2023 we focused to establish the research facility for engineering in another area. And 2024, for example, the policies is for the new facilities. We focus on the research vessels, satellites, and medical nuclear in 2024. And so on. We have another policies about support and management. Next. Okay, this is the presentation of our deputy. I'm afraid because I have to proceed with my own presentations, and there will be a lot of repetition. I'm really sorry for that. Anyway, jadi yang kedua Pak, yang dari saya. Yeah. Then my presentations will be entitled as Action Plan on Effective Research and Development Infrastructure Management. Next. First, in the beginning, the first year of BRIN. Next. Okay, I have explained these slides before. Just skip, and also this. Skip. Okay. Now our huge infrastructures after integration of 4 research institutions and 44 ministerial research institutions, we have a huge research facilities. It is some examples here in Cibinong. Maybe if you have still time to cite around, you have chemical characterization bioreactor and so on. In Cibinong, it is focus on life science facilities. Next, still in Cibinong, as I have said in the last presentation, that in the year 2022, our budget focused for life science facilities. One of the most advanced facility is the cryo-EM. I think it is the biggest and the most advanced facilities in South Asia, the cryo-EM laboratory. In the next building. Okay. The next one, next map. Also the research infrastructure for engineering, we focus in Serpong, around 2 hours from here. There you will find the structure laboratory, combustion engines, and so on. Okay, next one. Then, so this, I'm afraid you will be boring about this presentation because again, this is how we had to manage our services to the researchers. Okay, ELSA electronic science service. Next. And then the next, langsung aja. This is also I have explained before about the old and new system of BRIN. Next. It's about the transformation from old and new BRIN. It is also explained. Next. This is the same issues that our deputy has stated. Policy, support, and management. Next. And current status. Next one. Then we have to collaborate with other units. Next. Okay, next. Okay, this is the case survey conducted by the Directorate of the Evaluation of Policy. Next. Okay, this is about the misi. Yes. Okay. Sebelumnya ini apa ini? Oh ya, okay. This is the matrix. Our units deputy collaborated with another units. Next. Okay, this is okay. This is also the roadmap of infrastructure. Next. Then, and in this year, in the last, what we have done to solve all the problem, we establish policies, management system, and so on. Next. Okay. Regarding the human resources and the management for infrastructure, as the policy of our chairman, then everyone may move his position to the position in which he has passion. So if you have passion for in research, then you may move to research organizations. If you have passion to administration, you may move the deputy, for example. By this policy, lots of our operators, actually, before integration, our operators can be researchers or non-researchers. So by this policy, a lot of our operators move to the research organizations, leaving their equipments. So we need another employee to replace these researchers. By this policy, actually, our chairman, the target is that the researchers can be focused on his work on research. So most of his time will be spent on the research, not on operating equipment. That is the aim of this policy. But we have another effect that a lot of equipments were left by the operators. We have to recruit the new operators, and our deputy then in his policy manage the operators in every how you can say the equipment clusters, because we integrate all the equipment for the same classification in one place. We integrate it, and also we have to recruit a new operator there. Then a lot of deputy assignment to put the employee in his new positions. Okay, and this is the actually special work how to manage the human resource. I think every 3 months we release the new employee positions. Next. And regarding the equipment, we have completed the digitalizations. So we have completed the platform, not the workshop, because we have to get the data of every single equipment from every laboratorium, and we put it in our server by putting code, QR code in every equipment. So in the QR code, you may see the information there about the specification, the location, the person in charge, and so on. Next. Also, we have an e-catalog laboratory equipment. I think this is the same system, because the e-catalog, when you propose procurement, the new facilities, you have to look first to this e-catalog. So we can avoid the duplication procurement by this way. Next, and surely we have also produced a lot of standard operational standard procedure there, because a lot of services has its own character. Next one. Also, meanwhile, we have also to maintain the certification, because our laboratory has to comply with the standard laboratory, ISO 17025. Yes. So by these standards, we can give service better. Okay. I think at this moment we have 49 laboratories and 27 certified. So the next, the rest of 27 laboratory, we certify by ourselves at this moment by doing an internal audit. And after internal audit, we have to apply to the standardization institution to get certificate. Next. Next. Okay. Okay. From the next lagi, from the survey conducted by the Directorate of Evaluation Policy, we have lots of data about the researcher understanding, researcher perception, researchers needs regarding the research infrastructure facilities. Next, and this is the result of the result of the survey. There we have red color here, three first line, that most of the researchers strongly disagree that we have appropriate structure. Yes, this is the, as we predicted, we are still in the beginning stage, in the transition transformation phase. And then the role clarity, also this 50% strongly disagree. And number 3, the key individuals, also 53% strongly disagree. The rest of the researchers about knowledge sharing external is quite satisfied. But this 3 first line, it is our homework should be completed. Should be we have to make it better. Next. Now, okay, and also from the result of our visit to Korea during the workshop there, we analyze our problem by means BC, we call it ABC, and we found always the same things with the result of the survey. That the problem long queue for the to access the facility, and then duplication procurement, bad maintenance, low competence of the operators, and so on. It is a lot of problem there. Next, from the VC analysis, so actually this is you cannot read this, surely it is too small, but it is in Excel. That you have the roots of the problems, and you have there in the next month. Oh, cuma satu. Terus sebelumnya nggak ya tadi ke atas saja, ke atas lagi. Okay, there you have 2 parts. When you analyze the problem, how to understand the problem, what is the phenomenon, what is the reason, and how is the solutions. And in the next part, this is the action plan. How you have to solve that problem, which agenda, with action you have to take. What to-do list you have there, why the reason, and which stakeholder you have to collaborate, when, the time, how the process, how much, and how long, and so on. It is typically an action agenda. Next. Okay. When we design the action agenda, surely we have to refer to the deputy policy. This is the top level of our reference. And as the deputy, our deputy has defined his policy, we have to refer that to the policy about the roadmap of infrastructure. Next. And the second level after the deputy's level is directorate level. And this is the roadmap of infrastructure management. This is the directorate level. And this is the turunan itu apa ya, turunan? Ya, ini turunan dari kebijakan deputi. Ya, jadi the director level refers to the deputy level policy. And the next, the director level, we call it program. The deputy level, we call it policy. Then after policy, then we have the program. Then under the program, the next hierarchy is activity. Okay. Now, this activity, it is the action plan, the activity actually. The action plan refer to the mission and the survey also. Then we have to synchronize about from the deputy policy and directorate program to design to create the action plan. Okay. This action plan actually we get it from the mission matrix. The mission matrix, there you have the problem, you have the reason, you have the aim for the solutions, you have the stakeholder, you have to collaborate with, and so on. Then we put it in this matrix, the action plan matrix. For example, the deputy policy is the ecosystem assessment and regulatory development of R&D infrastructure management. About this policy, the director program make a program. It's called equipment procurement efficiency. Okay, and the activity we call it avoiding procurement duplication. So this avoiding procurement duplication consists a lot of activity there. The first one, creating existing equipment database, for example. And the stakeholder, equipment management unit, our collaborative coordinator, data and information unit, pusdatin, we call it pusdatin, and surely the financial planning unit, Biro Perencanaan, ya, BPK, and so on. Next, still about avoiding procurement duplication, we have to determine the procurement business process. So we have to design in which form is the business processes. Then the stakeholder, because this we have to collaborate with another units. Still, the leader for final decision maker, we put it until the deputy level, because we have to jump to another deputy unit. Okay, it is an example of the activities of the action plan. There are a lot of action plan because Dr. Kim insists me, please make one program, a lot of activity. One activity is one line, one row. Remember, just in Korea, in show you told me this activity should be one line, not in the. Okay. Anyway, this is the action plan, action plan. Next. Okay. Hopefully, by this collaboration with Korea State, our infrastructure management will be better in the future, and we hope that our meeting for the last 3 days, tomorrow, will be fruitful for a better infrastructure management, especially, and BRIN also. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Kamsahamnida.
Next, we will open Q&A session. It will be moderated by Dr. Lee.
Okay. You know, it's really like 1 year course in the graduate program. But we have the 4 presentations, which is very, very meaningful and but also very condensed. So we may have to discuss long enough, but since time is so limited, we would limit 2-3 questions from the floor, and after that we will have some answers and comment. So anyone who has questions in the floor, please raise your hand. And okay, the gentleman over there.
Thank you, Dr. Song Kim. I'm Riza. I'm from the Research Center for Research Policy. As I heard about how I develop the science and technology from Dr. Su, I'm sorry if I mentioned it wrong, that it is required a long-term commitment. So the question is not about how long, how to measure the time of commitment, the time, but my question is about how we, as the actor from the science and technology, make the policymaker listen to us. Because the long-term commitment is already well known, right? So education, science, technology requires a long-term commitment. So we have a historical background in Indonesia about the development that it is stop and go and scrap and build again. So how do you, like for this early of this month, we see, we witness how India get to the moon, right, to the shoulder of the moon. And I also admire the development about the electrified vehicles, and it is a long-term commitment. It's true that it is not in one overnight that it will develop the science technology. So my question is not about how long and how to measure what the commitment, but how to make them listen. How to make them listen, I mean, the decision maker listen that it's not just scrapping and building and stop on and go again. Thank you. And for Mr. Cahyo, I think it's about the wording. Collaboration among units, I think is not the right word. It should be coordination or re-coordination among units, but not collaboration, because we already in one BRIN, so it is not collaborative. I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So let me rephrase your question to make sure that I understood what you meant. So you were asking how to manage this long-term commitment. You cannot just stop after 5 years and restart. So of course, that's not how it works. So in fact, yeah, I agree that my presentation was too condensed. In fact, I wanted to tell you all about this for about more than an hour. I underestimated the difficulty of conveying all the ideas in just a short 15 minutes. So I'm very sorry about that first. So the long-term commitment I mentioned was specific about large-scale research facilities. But the question is, what is a large-scale research facility? In fact, I skipped this, but that should be, I believe, treated as one of the big sciences. So, for example, if you have a space program, your long-term commitment is the exploration of space, to outer space, and many nations, including United Arab Emirates, they have space agency whose sole goal is to make sure that they explore to the outer space, right? So that's their long-term goal. Interim goals may be sending space probe to Mars or to Jupiter, right? So those are the things that you can set up as a goal for like a 5-year to 10-year duration, and then you move on to your next project. That's how big science works. That's the first thing. But secondly, about the large-scale research facilities, it works a little differently. Of course, as I said, you should treat that as a big science because it begins with a design. I mean, it should, in fact, begin with a proposal first. Proposal and design phase. Design should be basic design, probably conceptual design first, basic and detailed design, and it goes on like that. So if you have one goal, for example, constructing a synchrotron, you should start with the design phase, estimate the cost. That is your first phase, and then make the design more details for the next 5 years, and then make the cost more precise. And that should go on in a staged way. So I would say in Korea and also in many countries, once they decide to construct a facility, they just do it in one go, which means just estimate how much it's going to cost to build everything, starting from the construction and operation. And they start with just a set of money. But unfortunately, during the design, they find that they have technical difficulties and they may cost a lot more than they expected. So then, well, we have two choices. Either flop the project or increase the budget, which is, we can report very embarrassing for the government. Right? So in that way, I was saying that you have to have a long-term commitment, which means you eventually want to set up a goal of constructing a large-scale research facility and operate fully to make sure it helps your society. So that's the long-term goal. And you have to segment the project in such a way that, for example, every 5 years, we have more detailed design and more discussions on what to do with that. And in addition, you have to, in fact, produce capable scientists, engineers who will work on that facility too. Right? So there are a lot of things to do. And you cannot just do it in one go. Right? Of course, you cannot just make a plan for 50 years and expect that will work. So you usually have to make a 5-year or 10-year plan and then revise it after that. So that's what I meant about the large-scale research facilities. But as far as your question is concerned, your question may have a more attainment on the big science, and the big science works a little differently, but again, it also works in a segmented way so that we have one project and the other after that, and it goes on like that. But it must have a custodian. This will be an organization which makes sure that, for example, space program works so that your people can explore the space, or nuclear programs so that you will eventually construct nuclear power plant in your country with your own hands. Right? You should set up such a national goal before embarking on investment on that program. Right? I believe you have set up a pretty nice goal. For example, your emphasis is on food, health, etc., right? So which are critical to your country. And of course, I understand why you set that goals, but you may have to paraphrase that so that you have food security in your country, make sure that some research organizations are responsible until that goal is met. That may take 50 years or a century even, right? But then the research organization should have a certain interim goal of doing something first, and then the next project goes on, right? So that's all I meant, basically. But that part, I didn't really give it in the presentation because of the time shortage. Does that answer your question? Right.
Well, I think it cannot be answered in short time. And as mentioned, Dr. Paul mentioned, building the trust and setting up the communication between general public and the research community is quite difficult task. Communities, you always value the research infrastructure is good for nation, but general public and politicians, it's very hard for them to believe in that way. So there has to be so much communications, but that's also some point in Korea, also like BRIN, you have to do increase the communications. That's one thing I would like to add on his comment. And Dr.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Im. Terima kasih, Kak Rida ya. Okay, yes, indeed, your suggestion is a good, better choice for the words. Actually, before there are some other words, cooperation, collaboration, coordination. But you are right. I came to know that for the internal institution, you will be better to use coordination. With Korean STEPI, collaboration, because STEPI is not our part in BRIN. Yes, thank you very much again.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to add that thank you for the sharing with us about your recommendations, and I think that we could establish and not scrapping and building again the huge amount of money that we invest in these new institutions in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, Dr. Tini.
Thank you for the presentation of Art and Dr. Cahyo Pranowo. So it's striking to me to hear from your presentation, Dr. Park. Each time you mentioned about multi-users, you always said multi-user large infrastructures or big sciences. So does it mean that in your case, multi-users is close to related to big science, large infrastructures, while maybe not small sciences, but science that are not big are commonly not multi-users. So how would you explain to them? That's the first question. If I may continue with the second question, big science, large infrastructures is not for us from Indonesia at the moment. If we are looking at I would like to use the capability ladder of the country. Country like Indonesia, maybe we are at the very first stage of development, where our national education system is starting to form, still in the process of maturing, is not mentioned yet. While Korea, maybe during the period of building backbone, you have already in the position of majoring national research system. So therefore, I would say that the idea of basic big science, large infrastructure is not for us at the moment. Except, of course, SPG, high performance computing, because high performance computing although is big, but it is small physical form because it is a computer electronic. Yeah, so we are also developing HPC, and we will do together with ASEAN also developing HPC. But synchrotron, accelerator is still, I think, needs sometimes to enter into the endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I always say. So you think well, I was waiting for this question. That means Dr. Judy, you understand basically what I tried to convey to the audience. So there is a big conception about big facilities and big science. In fact, there is a different correlation, yes. It started with big science, research reactors, accelerators. They started with basically Manhattan Project. That's considered the big science. But the number two, so I mentioned, was that it does not always correlate with big science. For example, in these days, many research reactors are independent of nuclear research in terms of energy or bomb making. So it's rather correlated with small science. So the example that I gave you was the vaccine and the battery materials. They are traditionally considered small science, but that requires big facilities. So it's just like the supercomputing facility. So yeah, of course, I know that one Korean institution is transferring their own supercomputer to Indonesia, right, so that you can work with the seismic effects, etc. So I would just say similar things can be told about synchrotrons and research reactors made for small sciences, right? And well, the other thing that I wanted to convey in the presentation was that they don't have to be big, right? They don't have to be very expensive. But your scientists eventually, I completely agree with you, you should start with some small equipment, definitely, right? But eventually the need will arise that they will need synchrotron X-ray-like sources and neutron sources so that they can advance their science a little further. I would say it's not just about science, it's about technology too. So for example, food science, they require synchrotron license eventually, right? But you don't have to stop that right now. What I say is that if you have a long-term goal for advancing your food science, you should keep in mind that you have to prepare for the eventuality by training your scientists and engineers. And you don't have to own the facility yourself. You can use the facility somewhere else and also train your next generation scientists at other facilities. I mentioned about this professor, Jeff Dunn, the Canadian professor at Dalhousie University. Canada used to have a research reactor, but now they don't. But how does he do research? He seeks out in time at other facilities in other countries, in the United States, even Australia. Right? If Canada was operational, he could have come to Korea, and then we could be happily reject his proposal because there are a lot of Korean companies who's competing against Tesla. Right? So that's the kind of fun part, right? But again, These facilities are considered the big facilities, but they don't have to cost so big to train and give a taste of doing the science. So that's what I mentioned about our small research reactor that was built in 1950s and 60s. They were small, but they were good enough to train the next generation scientists and engineers. Basically, our Korean science and technology blossomed out of that investment. Yeah, that's most of the scientists agree. So, well, I would say it doesn't have to be big, but it requires big political motivation. For example, in Jordan, Jordan is a small country, probably a lot smaller than Indonesia, and in terms of like the GDP per capita, I think probably they are poorer even, right? But they were given a synchrotron from Europeans. They built a very small research reactor there so that they want to train their next generation scientists. That's something that you want to consider too, right? So that's why I want to mention that we have to invest in people. I'm not saying you have to go to space. Probably, yeah, if you have a lot of money, then you can try that, but I'm not recommending that at the moment. So, to train the next generation scientists, we have to think carefully and try to acquire equipment that have multi-user capability. So in fact, you are doing pretty well, I would say, from your presentation and those discussions from yesterday. I learned that you have set up a program so that you can duplicate instruments once they are used very well. I believe that law, yes, that's the law that you want to have duplication, right? So you need that kind of system, definitely. Although you need to have a long-term goal of achieving some great need in your scientific programs, then we have to set up a long-term proposals so that eventually you'll be able to use more advanced scientific instruments, including large-scale facilities. I'm not saying you have to invest in right now. So that's not a wise investment at the moment, but still, it should be in the plan.
Thank you, Dr. Park. I asked Dr. Yongju whether he has something to add, and he said he agrees on perfect. Dr. Park. So there, I think, yeah.
Facilities and equipment, yeah. In my understanding from research by Sociology of Science, they explain the success of Pasteur, Louis Pasteur is a great scientist. The question was, what made him a great scientist? And the explanation was turned out that we should see Pasteur not as a person with body and soul, but Pasteur as a network. He is related with the laboratory equipment, with the virus that he is investigating. So it's a network, close to each other. So from that understanding, we should imagine that the scientist become a great scientist because the closeness of his doing research with laboratory equipment that are needed. Okay. Now, yesterday, following up our discussion yesterday, I'm wondering whether first there should be interdisciplinary variety in the kind of equipment or facilities that should be shared and facilities that should be kept close to the scientists. I think it is very important that we can, of course, in physics, for example, in my field, oscilloscope, discriminator is part of me. I cannot rely on other operators to operate my oscilloscope and my discriminator. I need it with me, the money laboratory. But synchrotron, just to test the material, yes, of course, it's far away from my laboratory, but I can go to the laboratory in physics, I don't know, in biology. So we need to identify what facilities and equipment that can be kept separate from the scientists, or we should make that equipment close to the scientists. Therefore, I wonder whether if you look at your Zeus, you will see that equipment X, there are equipment X in many places of Korea and utilized by whom you can see. Equipment X in many research centers, not in 1, 2, or 3. It means that that equipment should be close to the scientists. You can take away facilities and equipment. So I think in our cases also we have to identify what kind of equipment and facilities that can be kept away from the scientists and should be kept close to the scientists.
Yes, we are separated research infrastructure. Public research equipment and facilities do not often own the researchers or other researchers. Public research infrastructure, oscilloscope and microscope, low spec microscope and GCLC or another equipment do not want often another researcher is that. But we are going to, what is the joint utilization research infrastructures? Is we are going to advanced research infrastructure, a cryo-electronic microscope and higher voltage microscope and high resolution and high performance computing research infrastructure. Is the infrastructure wants the specializing technician and high cost operating cost and too long and operating period. So we are looking for the first time, we are collecting all research infrastructure data and make the reservation system and using system and all maintenance system. But this is bad system. We are converted, make the corrected just advanced research infrastructure data and information, and how that use that system and how we use this infrastructure. When we are collecting the data and make a reservation system by the unit by the possibility inside the advanced research infrastructure and it's about to operate and too many high operating costs and useful timeline. And we are making the reservation system and support the operating costs and too many researchers involved with this research infrastructure use and take a result and using the data. This is our conclusion. Yes, that's my answer.
Yeah, let me add one more thing. I think, in fact, BRIN policy is really nice in the sense that we're basically doing what I have been doing. So in fact, that was my presentation. Didn't have time to really mention it. But in fact, there is a constant conflict if you force the researchers to give up their instrument and share it with the others. There are many reasons. One, well, yesterday we discussed about the ownership. Yeah, they feel very strongly about their own equipment. But two, in fact, a lot of scientists like to customize the instrument so that it will work for their experiment so that they can come back anytime at midnight, come back and try that idea, right? It's almost impossible to share. If you want to share, then you have to reconfigure the experiment so that other guys can use the instrument, right? Scientists are very picky and they don't like it. So, in fact, from my experience, it's just my personal opinion. You do it the best if you designate user facilities or user instruments from the starting point and provide that to scientists and researchers, just like you do at BRIN, right? Instead of forcing the university professors or all the researchers to give up their instruments and facilities, you provide the service and management, maintenance, right? It's an idea of national facility, right? As long as you do a great job, there's no conflict. I mean, if a professor, if he doesn't want to customize their own experiment, it's always better to just pay a small fee for using the facility or instrument, because he doesn't have to maintain it. That's great for them, right? But if there is an experiment that requires customization, then the scientist has to own the instrument. Let them have them. But you supply more generic instruments that can be used as many people as possible, then I think it will work wonderfully.
Do you agree that we need to identify these facilities and equipment that can be kept separate? I think everybody will agree that equipment like nuclear magnetic resonance 600 megahertz, for example. Yeah, this kind of equipment, which is high operating costs, purchase cost is also high, operating costs high. I think everybody will be okay. We should centralize that kind of equipment, and whoever is need to experiment with that equipment, nuclear magnetic resonance 600 megahertz, for example, can apply and then stand on the queue to utilize that. But there are a number of facilities, even maybe equipment that should be modified and designed according to their research, and it cannot be shared with others. So therefore, what I suggest is that we should be able to identify that kind of equipment and facilities so that we facilitate the researchers.
Yeah, so I think the problem is, so if you have already existing facility that are used to by researchers, scientists, and already probably have customized, then it will be very difficult to convert them into a user instrument, right? So then there's a lot of resistance from the scientists and engineers. So my suggestion is, in the back of the center, just see what kind of research they are doing, and if that needs to continue, then let them have the instrument. But try to supply your own instrument from scratch. That will work a lot better. And of course, there should be some custodian of that new instrument to give service to the users. If they are successful, then a lot of people will give up the idea of owning their own facility or instruments. And also, those researchers who refuse to give up their instrument, if they see the value of using your available user instrument, then they will come up and say, oh, we cannot really maintain our instrument. I'd rather use yours. And also I can give up the instrument that I have. Right? It's just that I would say you can make the change naturally in that way. Of course, it's not going to be as theoretical as it's easily done. Anyway, I think that can be done.
As the moderator, I have to think about time. Time is already passed. We have to finish by 4:30. So it's almost time. And I know that every time I come here on the seminar, you have a lot of questions. And luckily, Dr. Tidi, you have a dinner. So you can have much time to talk. And I'm sorry that I cannot give you any more chance to the floor. I think that this is a really big issue. As I said, it's 1 year course. And still we have Mrs. Sujang. She also has a lot of things to say. So I suggest to have some kind of a Zoom meeting later, so that we can have more free time to discuss in details, because this is a really big issues, and there are many issues, like big issues in the political coordinations and the management issues. So and also administrative issues, so that we can discuss. And after the June seminar or meetings, if something come out, we can work next year also. And I hope that this will be a really, really good start. And I try to say thank you to Deputy Korea Selatan for her continuous support, and Dr. Judy for your continuous pressure. And yeah, that's, as a researcher, we are very happy to work together, as long as we have questions and the passions. And especially Indonesia is the really continuous partner for the study. I mean, from the age of LIPI, still study is study, so that we can work together. And I would like to congratulate all of you for participating and making this forum successful. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the end of this dissemination forum on design and implementation of research and development support policy for improvement of science, technology, and innovation system in Indonesia. On behalf of the committee of this event, I would like to express our gratitude for all of our distinguished speakers for their hard work for this event. We would also thank to all distinguished participants for your time and consideration to participate this event, to Indonesian participants and Korean College. I hope to this workshop and dissemination informative, fruitful, and insightful. I hope to see you again in the upcoming event. I'm Salma. I would like to say goodbye to you all. I apologize for any errors or omissions I may have performed. Thank you very much, and may you have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.